and welcome to the PS Lifestyle Wellness Podcast, Wellness in Your World. As a reminder, PS Lifestyle Wellness is an exciting and visionary project breaking new ground within the wellness industry, and it combines our resource-efficient wellness club along with our online wellness programs. And whilst our design and build move forward, we bring you the PS 5 areas of wellness online. So conversations about real wellness, no fads, no weird trends, and we clear the fog that can make wellness seem so confusing and intimidating. So if you're into facts, credibility, expertise, and a little bit of humour, stay tuned for some wellness in your world. So I'm Lindsay McKenzie.
And I'm Pamela Griffin, and together we are co-founders of PS Lifestyle Wellness. And today we are delighted to welcome meditation and mindfulness expert and behavioural change coach, Andrew Johnson, to the Wellness in Your World podcast. For over 25 years, Andrew has been helping people relax, change and create the lives they want through his range of online self-care recordings, guided meditations, apps, online courses and workshops. His work has motivated and empowered people across the world and has helped them cope with stress, overcome anxiety or fears, break habits and achieve their full potential. With over 15 million downloads and streams to date, that's an impressive number, Andrew's recordings are the best-selling self-help recordings on the Apple and Android app stores. Andrew, does that sound accurate?
I think that deserves a round of applause, does it not?
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for the invite, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. It's mostly accurate. I think it's amongst the best-selling.
Okay.
But yes, amongst the best-selling. The streams of the apps have made such a difference. I counted up. I'm on an app. I've got a ton of apps myself, but I'm on an app called Insight Timer, which is a huge meditation app, mostly free. But I counted up the other day, at the start of the year actually, and we've just passed 6 million streams on Insight Timer alone, which is mind-blowing. So yes, it's been a bit of a journey the last 25 years.
Yeah. So tell us about it then.
What, the whole thing?
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. From beginning to end, or beginning to now.
Okay. Well, I started as a clinical and medical hypnotherapist in 1994 into 5. I did my training. I had a long time before that, I had built up an interest in meditation and the power of the mind. And so I had a pretty successful one-to-one session client base in the west coast of Scotland, and had a bunch of recordings that I gave to clients, and then started selling as CDs and MP3s. Get into the App Store really early, 2009. My business partner at that point and I released the world's first meditation app in January 2009, and we just kept going with it. And about 18 months ago, my business partner and I had a very amicable split, and I took over the app side of the business and have been redeveloping them. You wouldn't think I spoke for a living, would you? Ever since.
So
and that's where I am.
You were properly ahead of the game. 2009.
Yeah.
2009. Yeah. So that comes from being, as well as a therapist and a coach, that comes from being a bit of a geek or a nerd, and being a technology fan. And I had seen how I delivered recordings change from cassettes, believe it or not.
Yes.
And then when recordable CDs came along, putting them on CDs, making a little bit of money, getting them professionally done. And then when the iPod was launched, changing from CDs to MP3s. And over the period of the first year, people starting saying, I don't want CDs anymore.
Wow.
In fact, somewhere in Ayrshire, there are boxes of CDs professionally made that you can't give away for love nor money because no one has CD players anymore.
But keep them, because this people used to say the same thing about vinyl, and that's made a huge comeback. So, you know.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. But so when the iPod came out and I thought, okay, things are shifting to MP3s, I just kept my eyes open to see what else was in the pipeline. And when the App Store opened, I thought, well, this could be interesting. But never did I think 12 years later, I'd still be in that business of delivering my recordings over the App Store and over, into mobile phones and tablets. So it's been a huge shift for me, and it changed my business completely.
Yeah.
So why did you get into, just going back to the beginning, why did you get into the whole kind of, do you class yourself as being in the mindfulness arena or the meditation or both, or how do you define what you do?
Well, it's my career has always sort of, it's changed organically. It's just grown into something. So I started off as I said, a clinical hypnotherapist, but very quickly, I mean, in the third or fourth month of my career, 95, I think it was, I started working in a cancer support centre doing voluntary therapy sessions. That quickly took me into working with groups of people. And working with groups of people, they all started asking for things like stress management and relaxation training. And I started doing that and discovered a real love of working with groups. And after a couple of years, in fact, it was the Cancer Support Centre that had asked me to do the first recording. I went into a professional recording studio and did my original sort of relax track, which I think then became the first app. And I thought to myself, I could do this sort of training, build a day's training in this and take it into the corporate market, which I started doing. I did a bit in the NHS, I did a bit in Bupa, and I worked with a number of charities. Discovered a real love for training, teaching people resilience training. But at that point, in the mid to late 90s, there's no way you could have mentioned meditation or mindfulness, even though it was a great love of mine. And over the last 10 years, I've seen this shift from going in and doing stress management, resilience training, wellness training, well-being training, and not mentioning meditation or mindfulness. And now the corporate market are actually actively looking for meditation and mindfulness. It just turns out that what I was doing initially is very easily modified to teach meditation and mindfulness. It's the same core skills.
And what are those core skills?
Well, I believe that if you start off by learning meditation and mindfulness, it's a great and wonderful journey. But I believe that it's much better to learn relaxation skills first. I think that when you learn to rebuild what's called the relaxation response, then you train your body in a way that, without mentioning meditation and mindfulness, you train your body and your mind to go into a deeply relaxed state. And then if you choose to go down a meditation route or a mindfulness route or a goal setting route or a visualization route, you have the core skills to go into any of those practices. And I believe it's really important that people understand that when you can learn to relax, it has massive benefits in all areas of your life, physical and mental, and in so many areas.
And it's never been needed, I would say, so much as it's needed at the moment, let's face it.
Yeah, it's a tough time at the moment for an awful lot of people. I see that every day. I'm doing live classes every day, and I have been since the first lockdown. And I see what's happening and I hear what's happening with a lot of people. So it's tough. It's really tough. And
do you still work on a one-to-one basis with clients then, Andrew, or is your platform now really all on online apps and all that kind of stuff, or do you still have people that you just speak to on a one-to-one basis?
I will see a one-to-one. I'll do a one-to-one session if it's needed in person. COVID has really knocked that in the head, however. But no, the majority of, I did 17 years of seeing one-to-one clients. And then when the apps really took off, I decided to focus on that and that alone. And that has proved to be a good decision. It's important, I think, for me to reach as many people as I can, and being in the digital world has allowed me to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the huge benefits, can you tell us what some of them are?
Well, certainly of relaxation.
Yeah.
I believe that the number one benefit of learning to relax and learning to switch off the body and deepen the breathing and slow the heart down and clear the mind is sleep. I think that the first thing that is affected by an awful lot of folk when they're dealing with change and uncertainty, which is really what's happening at the moment. No one really knows what's happening. The one thing that gets affected so quickly is sleep. And I believe strongly that it doesn't really matter what's happening in your life, whether it's financial or physical or mental or whatever. If you get a good night's sleep, things are easier. There is no doubt of that, absolutely no doubt. But also, I think learning to relax gives you a little space between what's happening external to you and what's happening internal. So it gives you this little break between watching the news and then having that automatic response of fear or panic or depression. And it makes you much more aware of what you're holding on to in your body physically and emotionally. When you recognize that and you have the techniques to let it go a little easier, that makes a huge difference. Again, no matter what's happening with people in their lives, if you think about something like chronic pain, or what happened in the Cancer Support Centre was that people would say to me, all I do is get told what to do by consultants and doctors and nurses and friends and family and whoever. They're all giving me advice. And what relaxation and meditation has done is give me a bit of control over how I feel. And I think that's really what we all want in many cases, it's to feel a bit more in control.
Definitely.
So something simple like relaxation can really help you control how you feel and change how you feel.
Yeah, it's that mind-body connection, isn't it? You know, science shows that they've identified how stress and depression and other mental health states can alter organ function and show that there's a real kind of anatomical basis for what people would call psychosomatic illness. And that's not to suggest that it's all in your head, but it is because it's all in your brain, it's all in your nervous system. But those psychosomatic illnesses actually produce very real and often really debilitating symptoms. So if you can not detach mind from body, then you're halfway to feeling, partly better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I believe, and this is such a strange thing to say, but I believe we all have one or two genetic weak links that when we get stressed over a period of time, it will show in our body. And there are generalities like, feeling it in your shoulders and feeling it in your stomach, feeling it in your neck, the tension in your jaw and things like that. But over the years, I've seen people who have come in to see me and they'll come along because they have, let's just say, a really ongoing skin issue where they're having to put steroidal creams on their skin, especially in their arms. And they go to the doctors, and the doctors, with the best of intentions, are looking at it and saying, well, let's try this cream, or let's try that cream, or let's do this, or get some whatever. And I will say to the people, you know, how long have you had this? Oh, 10 years, and blah, blah, blah. And then you say, you know, what makes it better? Is there anything at all that makes it better? Then they go, oh, yes, when I go on holiday, and I have 2 weeks, and it clears up. Isn't that strange? Isn't that unusual?
And it must be the sun. Well, yeah, but it'll be all down to your diminished stress levels.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that we carry about with us that on an ongoing basis, over time, will have a physical response. Stress really isn't the issue, it's how long we hold on to it. Because we can get stressed. We can see something that happens to us that just changes instantaneously how we feel physically and emotionally. And then most of us let it go. Thank goodness we can, because we'd all be basket cases. Literally. Yes. But we let it go. That's what human beings do. They let it go. But the longer it remains in the system, and the more link there is to when you think about it or remember it, the energy in the system, the chemicals reacting again to give you the fear, the panic, the whatever, then it has an ongoing physical effect. If you relax the mind, the body will follow. And if you relax the body, the mind will follow to a degree. And when you can learn to relax both, it's wonderful. And it has profound effects, positive effects on people.
I have to say, Andrea, as somebody who was always a little bit, I don't know if dubious or nervous is the right word to use about doing meditation. I've got an incredibly busy mind, and I've done it a few times way before recently, and I just found it impossible and quite intimidating. There were a few times through some of the jobs I've done previously where they brought people in as a group, and you would do sort of 10, 15 minutes. And I just found that quite tricky. I just found it too difficult because of the way I am. And I always felt like I was doing it wrong, because they would say things like clear your mind. And it's like, well, the minute you tell me to clear my mind, all I do is I start thinking about things, and it kind of got me a bit more stressed. But since and I'm not just saying this, but genuinely, since I've started listening to your meditation, your guided meditation, what I like about yours, Andrea, is that you say very openly quite early on in a lot of the recordings that I use, thoughts will come and go, and that's fine. Like, don't, you know, and almost instantly that kind of put my mind at rest, because you're saying, look, it's almost impossible to clear your mind. So what would be your advice to anyone about like me who maybe hasn't used meditation or relaxation techniques for that reason, because they found it a little bit overwhelming or intimidating? How do you start? What's the best thing to do?
Well, the problem that you were encountering on those classes was nothing to do with you. That was the way it was delivered. And that was the person who was delivering it, that was their issue. And if they can't see that or teach it in the proper way, then they shouldn't be doing it. Over the years, one of the reasons that a lot of corporates wouldn't do meditation is they would have someone coming in their Jesus robes and telling folk to sit cross-legged on the floor and hum.
Exactly. And I think for a lot of people that's actually still, maybe not so much now, but I think that's what you've probably had to battle against for many years, is that, you know, that's really not what it's about. And that is quite intimidating, the whole kind of sitting in a lotus position and humming and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's not really my bag. However, since discovering your meditations, it has honestly changed a lot of things for me. It's helped a lot. No, it genuinely has, like with sleep especially. It's been wonderful. So you know, I would urge people to download your app and start with, even because you do even sort of 2-3 minute meditations and things, don't you, Andrew? Like, where you don't have to have 45 minutes out of your day to be able to do it.
No, I do. I think in the latest app, there's a range of what I called SOS tracks, which is just to stop you and bring you into the moment, to stop the mind racing off. Yeah. and the heart starting to go, and it's just I would have called them a little kick in the arse meditation, but I think that it's better to call it SOS, because that's what folk need sometimes. Just if it's a 3-minute recording that stops you reaching for a cigarette, or stops you saying the wrong thing to the wrong person, or stops you, throwing your laptop out the window. And we've all got to that stage. We all, there's nothing wrong with feeling like that. It's knowing that you have a solution, an alternative to it. I think one of the things that's really important is this, really important to point out is this: the imagery that's used with meditation puts a huge amount of people off. This is the same as yoga. There's a lot of people out there who will publicize yoga classes, and they'll be in some position that makes them look like a human pretzel.
A human pretzel, wonderful.
A human pretzel. And people will look at that and go, I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Therefore, this is not for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the reason that people sit cross-legged in meditation, well, there's many reasons, but the main reason is that meditation came from the East, especially India, and people in India sit cross-legged on the floor to eat their dinner.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
And if you've done that most of your life, you're really comfortable doing it. But if you spent most of your adult life sitting in a leather settee watching the telly, trying to get down into cross-legged position is painful and embarrassing and not conducive to relaxation. And anyone who says you need to do this in meditation, you need to clear your mind, you need to sit cross-legged in a lotus position, you need to breathe in this way at this speed, it's not understanding that as human beings we all have different internal experiences.
Because when if you don't do that, it just adds to your stress. And
yes,
it's counterproductive. Like you said, Pam, it's I'm not doing this right. How everybody else can do it, I can't do it. What am I doing?
Exactly. Yes.
And you give up after 2 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I used to, in the early days of my hypnotherapy career, I used to mop up unbelievable amounts of people who had previously gone to see a hypnotherapist whose name I won't mention, and would go in and they'd come to see me and I'd say, have you had hypnotherapy before? And they'd say, yes, but it didn't work. And I say, well, how do you know it didn't work? And they'd say, I wasn't asleep.
Yeah, it's not.
And I'd say, well, that is so wrong that previous hypnotherapist wouldn't have said, now you're not going to be asleep. You'll hear everything that I say. Your mind may wander off, but you'll hear absolutely everything. Because that one line wasn't told to them, they would then sit there going, I'm not asleep, it's not working. I'm not asleep, it's not working. And therefore, everything he's telling them, which would be good stuff about positivity or breaking smoking habits, everything he's saying to them isn't being heard because the conscious mind is saying, this isn't working, I'm not asleep. So I find it fascinating and actually quite scary that there are people out there teaching meditation and saying, if you can't clear your mind, you can't do this.
Yeah.
That is, to me, almost criminal. Because you are, and it's the people who go along when they feel uncomfortable and out of the norm. It's those people who are the people who really need the help.
Yeah.
So that's in many ways when I'm doing even a meditation class for a corporate customer, where people it's been suggested that they go along. It's maybe not their first decision. It's been suggested to go along. I will do nice, simple breathing techniques to start with. We won't talk about meditation. Nice, simple muscle relaxation techniques. And as you do a little technique and then get feedback, folk will go, yes, I felt different with that. That's great. And by the end when I used to do 7 or 8 hour training days with people, by the end of it, they would be deep in relaxation without me hardly doing anything. And I'd be able to say, now, that feeling that you have there with your breath, so slow and heaviness in the body and in touch with all your resources and skills, that's meditation. And I'd go, wow, that means I can meditate.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Right. Yeah.
That's definitely something I've taken from your recordings, Andrew, is the power of breath. And yes. I think it's probably something really that I should have been much more aware of as a massage therapist. But I wasn't really until probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when just taking a couple of deep breaths can completely change how you feel. Yes. And you do some recordings on the app, Breath of Life, I think they're called. Is that right? Yeah, and they're honestly, they're amazing. They change the way you feel. They definitely help me relax. This whole idea of breathing from your stomach rather than from your chest, because that's what babies do, isn't it? I'm right in saying that babies from their stomach, and there's a benefit to that, but I'm not entirely sure what it is, and you would know what that is because you're the expert. But
well, as you said, there's diaphragmatic breathing, which is what it's called in sort of more Western terms, but it's also called yogic breathing, deeper breathing, belly breathing, meditation breathing. But it's basically shifting your breath down into the diaphragm, down into the stomach. And when you inhale, you're expanding the stomach out. Now, as you quite rightly said, when you look at a baby lying on its back and breathing, it's the belly that rises and falls. But as we go into our teenage years and into adulthood, we tend to just breathe a little shallower. It's as simple as that. It happens with most folk. Mm-hmm. They're breathing mostly from their chest. And what happens is that when you get stressed, you breathe shallower and higher. It doesn't mean that your lungs are moving, but that's what happens. If you've ever been unfortunate enough to have a panic attack or witness someone having a panic attack, they're almost breathing in their collarbones. It's like that, you see? Now, if stress and anxiety leads to people breathing quicker and higher, surely the opposite effect has to be true. That to reverse panic, stress, anxiety, you breathe deeper and slower. And people who have never had experience of Eastern practices or meditation or stress management, even people like that still know if they see someone in stress, they'll put their hand on their back and say, "Come on, mate, take a deep breath." Yeah. It's built into us that we should be doing that. We just forget it.
Yeah.
So when you take a conscious breath and you gently take it down into the stomach, and it takes a little while, it takes a little bit of practice to retrain the body to do this, because it's just habit. But when you do that, you're taking a lot of what's happening up here in the conscious mind, all the, oh my God, I can't cope, I don't know what to do. And you're dissolving some of the thoughts up here down into the body, and that's called grounding yourself. It's shifting your attention from your conscious mind into your belly. Secondly, you're taking more oxygen in, which always helps no matter what. And thirdly, and this is one of the great benefits of diaphragmatic breathing I've seen over the years, when you breathe from the belly and it's moving out and in, you're giving all the internal organs a lovely, gentle massage. And there are so many people out there who, if they've been dealing with stress and anxiety, will feel that in their stomach. Digestive problems, irritable bowel syndrome, too much acid, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. It's where most of us feel that. We feel it in our belly. We feel the stress here. Yeah. And what happens is, over the years, when I've taught this to people, an awful lot of them will say, we'll come back, I'll get an email 6 months later and they'll say, isn't it funny, I've been doing deeper breathing and the symptoms of my IBS have got much, 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 much less, much more reduced. And that's because they're A, relaxing, B, they're finding that they're a bit more in control over how they feel, and C, they're moving a bit of their body that hasn't really moved for years in a rhythmic fashion, and it's helping all the issues within the stomach. It's fascinating. One of the things that I will always say, and I say this about everything I teach, do not be fooled by the simplicity of changing your breathing.
I was just about to say that. We overthink things as humans. Almost, there'll be people listening thinking, what? So I can do all that just because of my breathing? But surely I need to do X, Y, and Z as well. And it's like, no, you really don't. And I think that's what we need to be shouting about a lot more, is that it's just because it's simple does not mean it's effective. It's very effective. And
breath work is becoming much more popular these days. The terminology breath work is, I keep seeing it pop up time and time again, and it's just a way of controlling your breath, and the difference it can make in people is extraordinary.
One kind of example to suggest to people is that when people know about your fight or flight mode, which is your sympathetic nervous system. You've also got your rest and digest, which is your parasympathetic nervous system. So as you breathe, what you're doing is you're tapping into your rest and digest. You're trying to, your fight or flight has become really high alert, and that's probably because you're busy, you're homeschooling, you're working from home. When's lockdown going to end? So your stress levels are up here. But with breathing, what you're doing is you're tapping into your rest and digest, your parasympathetic nervous system, which will then overtake, and your stress hormones will relax, they'll decrease, and it just, it is that simple. It really is.
I've never heard that phrase, rest and digest. I love that. That's awesome.
All right.
Every day's a school day.
Every day is a school day. I mean, one of the things that happens is that we have this amazing set of resources within us, in our mind, all our skills and abilities and our strengths. The parts of us that really can find solutions to almost everything that's going on in our lives. But the little bit of the mind, this little bit here, the conscious mind, gets overwhelmed really quickly. It doesn't take much happening before we can't see the wood for the trees. So what happens normally is that we get overwhelmed, we hold on to stress too long, we bite at people, we have too much wine, we reach for the cigarettes, we kick the dog, don't be
kicking dogs. Disclaimer: don't kick dogs.
I'm not implying that people should kick dogs to get rid of stress, but you know what I mean. We all have a breaking point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't see the solution, and eventually things pass and we get back in control, and that might take 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 days, or in some cases 2 or 3 weeks. We have a breakdown. What happens with relaxation techniques and meditation is that it makes the ability to get back into control much quicker, much shorter. So we can stop, we can breathe, we can take ourselves deep within and just gently allow it, and much quicker than normal without doing it, this bit here that's all over the place starts to settle down, and we start to access the big computer. And we start to think, okay, I need to phone this person, and then I need to explain this to this, and then I need to go and find the dog that's run away, and I don't need a cigarette, and I don't need this, and I don't need that. Right. And then we start to realize, again, this word control. We're back in a little bit more control than we normally have been, and we've done it much quicker. And that can be almost magical. Yeah. And the more you can realize that you have the ability to do it with a little bit of gentle practice and repetition, can be a profound turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's understanding that you can take 5 minutes away from whatever it is that's overwhelming you to do that. I mean, we're a society that sits in front of our laptops and just thinks, I need to power on through. you know, this is how it's meant to be. You know, people will respect me and admire me because I'm just, you know, bashing on. Whereas, you know, if you took some time away for you to do breathing, stretching, going outside, a bit of nature, all that kind of stuff, it allows you to, like you said, take that control and come back, and you'll find that yourself regenerated, more creative. The solution that you couldn't find because you were sitting in front of your laptop for 2 hours has suddenly, magically come to you. And it's about getting across to people that you need to have that time. You can't just sit endlessly on Zoom calls, spreadsheets, emails. You know, you need to take that time away. And we're not talking, I mean, I would love for you to go away and take your lunch hour. Periodically throughout the day, it's so important for you to just step away from what you're doing. And it gives you that clarity to then go back in, see and see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
You become more, you know, you get your motivation back, you become more productive. And like I said, that task that seemed so overwhelming is now actually, do you know what? It's easy.
Yeah.
Yep. I can tell you without a word of a lie, and this happens with an awful lot of men, that I will say to them, if I'm doing training, I will say, if you do 20 minutes of meditation in the morning, you will be more productive, more creative, more level-headed. You will see solutions. You will have better relationships with your colleagues, etc., etc. And that gets split right down the middle. There will be people who will say, I don't have time to take 20 minutes off. I'm too busy. And they will, that's fine. That's their reality. And off they go and nothing really changes. And then there'll be people who will take my advice and go, well, I'm going to test this. And they do it for a period of time, generally between 2 to 3 weeks. It takes about 3 weeks to create a habit. And almost 100% of the time, people will come back and say, I actually am getting more done. I'm taking 20 minutes out of my working day.
Yeah.
I am getting more done.
Yeah.
Because my focus is now on, I don't want to suggest that it's to get more focus on work, but if your mind is clearer, you'll just have greater concentration. When you get in touch with your resources, you'll be much more productive in less time, and it will seem a happier experience.
Yeah.
And that happens almost 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes.
We could speak to you forever, Andrew, but I'm conscious of time. We're obviously incredibly privileged that you are part of the PS team. You're one of the practitioners that eventually will be with us in our physical building, but until we get to that point, as the listeners may well know, we are putting that model, if you like, online, and we're delivering our 5 key areas of wellness, which are mental health, fitness, nutrition, remedial treatments, and spa treatments. And we're delivering that to companies and individuals who maybe feel that they need that, especially at this point. So it's about keeping people well remotely, and that's obviously something you've got years of experience in doing. So thank you for being one of our wider team, because we think that's fantastic. But what we're interested to know about you, Andrew, is what wellness means for you. When you hear the word wellness, is it something that you think has been diluted a bit, or do you think it's great that so many more people are talking about it? What does it mean for you?
I think it's changed over the last 10 years. I think we're now in a situation where most people are understanding the benefits of good mental health.
Yeah.
And having the ability to talk about it and share. And I also think, we talked about this before we started recording, that an awful lot of people in the last 10 months are starting to realise the importance of what we used to take for granted. Just getting out and stretching your legs, just taking fresh air, the power of conversation, or meeting someone in real life. Another human being, meeting another human being, and imagine that. And I think there is going to be such a gear shift I hope that the little signs of positivity that are coming out of this pandemic will continue, with a lot of people looking after their physical and their mental health a bit longer, and sharing the simpler things in life and the joy, rather than, as you said earlier, all these people sitting at the laptop and doing 10 hours because they think that's the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. Wellness means a different thing to different folk, but as I said earlier, if you can go to bed at night and within a couple of minutes be fast asleep and wake up in the morning and think, okay, I feel completely refreshed, that's you're better off than 60 or 70% of the population.
That's the dream, isn't it? That sounds amazing. That's really interesting. It's true. Wellness definitely means different things to different people, and that's something that's really at the heart of our core values at PS. It's about understanding it's not a one-stop shop. It's a very fluid thing. It changes daily sometimes, depending on your own personal circumstances. So yeah, it's definitely different. We've mentioned your app a few times, Andrew. You must tell the listeners how they can download it, where they can find it.
Well, if you go to my website, which is andrewjohnson.co.uk, or just put my name into Google, I'm there somewhere, JOHNSON. And the website has all the links to all the apps I have, including my latest sort of subscription app, it's got 400 recordings on it, covering a huge amount of topics. Yeah. So I'm very proud of it.
Which Pam and I both subscribe to.
Yes, we both, and genuinely, I discovered it properly in the summer of last year. So probably about 3 months into lockdown. And I wish it's my only regret is that I wish I'd found it sooner, because I just love it. And also are you still doing your 8 o'clock live? You were doing Facebook?
In a circle, yeah.
Yeah,
yes, I'm doing them on a different platform. It's still free Monday to Thursday, but I'm doing 7 days a week, 8 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm now on day 315 or something.
That's amazing. That's got to be some form of world record or something. We should investigate.
It is for me.
We should investigate it. Well, what we'll do is when we we'll have all the information on the notes part of the podcast so that people can connect with you, because I think definitely now more than ever people need something. Mental health is just at the center of everything, and we all need to look after it, and your guided meditations and things definitely have made a huge difference to both myself and Lindsay. So thank you.
Well, that's very kind. It's a small piece of the jigsaw, but it can be an important piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you very much indeed. It's been great chatting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next week, we're going to be speaking to Al Langlands, who is a personal trainer and nutrition specialist. He's also a crazy ultra endurance athlete. Until then, please like, share and comment, and you can contact us for more information about our bespoke online wellness programs, so that you and your employees can remain motivated and engaged within your business. So you can find us at pswellnessedinburgh.com. And thank you for listening, and join us next time for some more wellness in your world.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye.